Battle through the heavens, Grand World. Chapter 71. The Fierce Battle. What? Seeing Rek taking out a spirit weapon, Lien Yunhai and Qin Wei's facial expression turned slightly ugly, but they quickly returned to normal. At this point, there was no point in thinking too much. They could only fight with their lives on the line. Both of them had experienced great storms, so they were able to withstand such a sudden change. Rek, even if you take out a heavenly weapon today, you will still die. The jade spirit sword in Lien Yunhai's hand buzzed. After that, his body flashed and attacked Rek from both sides with Qin Wei. Arrogant. Rek's face darkened. He let out a low roar and waved the machete in his hand. In the blink of an eye, the machete appeared in his hand. Several blade shadows could be seen with the naked eye. Each blade shadow had a silver lightning attached to it, causing the air around it to seem as if it was being cut apart. 1,000 blades of thunder. The moment the fire spirit spear and jade spirit sword were about to reach him, Rek's eyes flashed with a bright light. The enormous origin monarch ki in his body continued to pour into the spirit-breaking blade in his hand, and then he fiercely swung it down. In an instant, several blade shadows that carried silver lightning bolts blasted in all directions. The blade shadows instantly solidified as they circulated. The flashing lightning kept jumping on top of it. At such a close distance, even Yunhai and Qin Wei's facial expression turned serious when they felt the power of the attack. The captain of the city guards, Qian Lai, who was a distance away, could feel the prickling sensation on his skin and could not help but frown. The strength of a monarch spirit warrior in his heart had once again risen to another level. Suddenly, he turned his head. He happened to see Xiao Yan, who was not far away, staring at the battle on the battlefield. It was as if he could not see the unpleasant feeling coming from Xiaoyan's body. This guy, Qian Lai, could only smile helplessly. Then, he nervously looked at the intense battle on the stage. Be careful. Lien Yunhai felt a trace of uneasiness the moment the blade shadow came at him. Immediately, he roared at Qin Wei. At the same time, he turned around. The jade spirit sword in his hand made a clanging sound as it protected his body. It emitted a bright and clean spiritual light that completely enveloped Lien Yunhai's previous self. The fire spirit spear in Qin Wei's hand was nearly 2 meters long. It was impossible for him to stand up and block the blade shadows from all directions. The moment he heard Lien Yunhai's warning, Qin Wei put away the fire spirit spear. At the same time, vigorous origin monarch ki surged out from his body and formed a layer of fiery red gas wall in the blink of an eye. Almost at the moment the gas wall was formed, several lightning blades whistled through the air and continuously struck the gas wall in front of Qin Wei. The silver lightning arcs on the lightning blades were like sharp blades as they spun and corroded the air wall. Qin Wei could feel the terrifying power contained within it, and his expression turned cold. However, as the leader of the mercenary corps, who had added blood to the blade, he was someone who had gone through blood and fire training. Although his expression was extremely solemn, his hand movements were not slow at all. As his 10 fingers moved, majestic origin monarch ki crazily poured into the air wall in front of him. As the origin monarch ki was poured in, the red color within the ki wall became even brighter. The cracks that were visible to the naked eye due to the corrosion of the lightning arcs had now disappeared. Although Lien Yunhai's jade spirit sword's defense was slightly weaker than Qin Wei's defensive monarch skill, with its powerful strength, even if the defensive sword light was on the verge of collapsing due to the corrosion of the lightning arcs, it was still unable to do anything to Lien Yunhai. When the spirit weapon monarch skill was unleashed, Rek saw the performance of the two men. His brows slightly furrowed, and then he rushed towards Qin Wei, who was focused on defending. Compared to Lien Yunhai, Qin Wei was weaker. Breaking through was relatively easy. Since both of them had spirit weapon, if they really fought with their lives on the line, even he would find it troublesome if the two of them worked together. Since his goal wasn't here, he might as well take the opportunity to deal with them. Commander Qin, I apologize for offending you. Rek's left hand curled into a claw. Lightning surged on the claw, carrying unparalleled power as it clawed at Qin Wei's neck. Looking at Qin Wei, who was right in front of him, the corner of Rek's mouth couldn't help but reveal a ferocious smile. Qin Wei, who was highly focused, immediately noticed Rek's intention. Immediately, he let out a low roar. A trace of determination flashed across his face, and the wall of air in front of him suddenly disappeared. He let the remaining lightning blade hit his body, and then he formed his hands into a palm. The Origin Monarch Key quickly wrapped around his body, and in an instant, the red light on his palms kept flowing. Kinwei clenched his teeth tightly, enduring the pain that came from his body. Both of his palms suddenly struck out. The powerful key caused the two stone lions in front of the Thunder Prefecture to shatter. Boom! When the two palms collided, Kinwei felt a sweetness in his throat. He forced himself to swallow the blood that was about to spurt out. He couldn't help but take a few steps back. On the other hand, Rek did not suffer much damage. His wrist shook slightly and the impact of the collision was eliminated. The gap between the two of them could be seen. After recovering his somewhat chaotic ki, Rek's eyes looked at the spirit-breaking blade in his hand without leaving a trace. There was already a trace of a conspicuous crack on the surface of the blade. This spirit-breaking curved blade was the reward he got when he was in the Lei clan. Of course, due to his sparse strength, the spirit weapon he got was only a broken blade spirit weapon from his family. The Monarch skill sealed on it was only a low-grade Monarch spell. Ever since he came to the Falling Rock City, he had never used this spirit-breaking saber before. Over the years, it had been used. The abundant spiritual energy on it was gradually dissipating. Just now, he had taken the risk to use the spirit weapon Monarch skill. It actually cracked a crack on the spirit breaker. Looks like I can only use the spirit weapon Monarch skill 3 times at most. I don't care anymore. When I get that kid's 3000 lightning Monarch flames, the clan's reward will be enough to make up for the loss. Just as Rek was lost in his thoughts, Lien Yunhai, who had blocked the 1000 blades of lightning, rushed forward at the first possible moment. The jade spirit sword in his hand shone with a dazzling light. A cold light was emitted from it, and it was flickering with a deadly radiance. Swoosh! The jade spirit sword slashed down fiercely at Rek. Kinwei, who had just recovered from his shock, endured the intense pain. He tore off his tattered shirt, revealing his strong body. Then, with a twist of his wrist, the fire spirit spear appeared in his hand, and he and Lien Yunhai approached Rek, one in front of the other. You're courting death. Rek let out an angry laugh. Boundless Origin Monarch Ki surged out of his body and instantly formed a barrier that looked like a layer of lightning. Thunder snakes swam on the barrier. The crackling sound of the lightning kept entering the ears of the surrounding people. The moment the lightning net was formed, Rek didn't care about Kinwei. The spirit-breaking blade in his hand was flying with cold light. He aimed at Lien Yunhai, who was very close to him, and dealt a fierce blow to the jade spirit sword that was whistling towards him. Buzz! A deafening metallic sound was suddenly heard, causing some of the weaker people to tremble and feel suffocated. Some of them even shook their legs and hurried away from this place. The fire spirit spear and the jade spirit sword arrived at the same time. When the fierce attack came into contact with the lightning net surrounding Rek, it was as if a cow had entered the ocean and was unable to move at all. The lightning arcs on the spear crazily corroded the fire spirit spear, gradually disintegrating the strong impact of the spear tip. No matter how hard Kinwei tried, he was unable to move forward at all. When the jade spirit sword and the spirit-shattering saber collided, even Cloud Sea and Rek were evenly matched. One side held intact spirit weapons, while the other relied on abundant Origin Monarch Ki, and in an instant, no one was able to do anything to the other. After the initial shock, Kinwei naturally wouldn't let go of this perfect opportunity. Immediately, the Origin Monarch Ki in his body crazily poured into the fire spirit spear in his hand, and once again activated the spirit weapon Monarch skill. Fire Spirit Devour. In an instant, the fire spirit spear glowed with a bright light. The spirit energy turned into a flaming snake that swallowed and spat out flames, and it quickly rushed towards Rek's protective lightning net. The protective lightning net was only able to resist for a split second before it was broken by the fire snake. It roared fiercely at Rek's back. The moment he sensed Kinwei releasing the spirit weapon Monarch skill, Rek had a bad feeling. His right arm, which was holding the saber, was tightly entangled by the sea of clouds. A thought flashed across his mind. The lightning on his left hand surged and he used one hand to unleash the lightning. The arm of the king met the roaring fire snake head-on. However, Rek's speed was still half a beat slower. Under Kinwei's precise control, the fire snake nimbly dodged Rek's arm attack and fiercely struck Rek's back. Woo! Rek's entire body trembled. He forcefully endured the piercing pain from his back. The Thunder King turned his arm, and it collided with the Fire Spirit spear. The powerful force caused Qin Wei's hands to go numb. The Fire Spirit spear almost slipped out of his hands. Rek's eyes turned red from the pain, and he forced Qin Wei to withdraw his left arm and attack Lien Yunhai. Lien Yunhai naturally wouldn't fight him head-on. He retracted his sword light. The moment before the Thunder King arm struck him, Lien Yunhai dodged the attack with great agility. "Leader Qin, are you alright?" Lien Yunhai glanced at Qin Wei and asked worriedly when he saw the latter's pale face. "Who?" Looking at his hands that were full of blood, Qin Wei let out a light breath and said, "It's a small wound, it's fine." Even Yunhai didn't say anything after hearing what Qin Wei said. After calming down the surging qi in his body, the two of them once again focused their attention on Rek. At this moment, Rek had also jumped out of the battle circle. He looked at the two of them with a gloomy expression. The pain from his back made him suck in a breath of cold air, causing his mind to become much calmer. Damn it, both of them have spirit weapon. They actually have such a tacit understanding when fighting together. I reckon it will be difficult for even one of them to be seriously injured. His eyes kept looking at the two of them. Rek thought quickly in his heart, but the two of them want to kill me. It was also impossible. It was almost time. It seemed like Teye had already left the city. The West Star City was only 3 days away from the Falling Rock City. Looks like I can finally get out of here. As this thought flashed across his mind, the corner of Rek's mouth couldn't help but reveal a trace of a cold smile that no one noticed. After that, his eyes swept across the surrounding crowd, planning to find a way to escape quickly. In his heart, the city guards in Falling Rock City wasn't enough. Even if 50 people attacked him together, he wouldn't be afraid. Besides, 50 people were stationed separately. Rek was very confident. In terms of speed, even Yunhai and Qin Wei couldn't match up to him. Due to the impact of the combat aura earlier, many of the onlookers were far away from him, leaving more space for him to escape. This made Rek even more excited, as if those astronomical rewards had arrived in front of him. As his eyes swept across the battlefield, Rek's expression suddenly changed. He stopped at a place where a young man in a black robe was standing at the front of the crowd. His eyes were filled with contemplation, as if he was reminiscing about the battle just now. Xiao Yan. A bright light flashed in Rek's eyes. After that, he glanced at the nervous Lien Yunhai and Qin Wei and suddenly laughed. After that, his body suddenly rushed towards Xiao Yan. Both of his hands were filled with violent lightning as he grabbed at Xiao Yan's collar. Since the opportunity was right in front of him, wouldn't it be even more perfect to capture this young man and bring him to Lingsing City by himself? Little fellow, follow me. Chapter end. Chapter 72. End. Not good. Little friend, be careful. At the same time, the two men's bodies moved and rushed towards Rek. The spirit weapon in their hands also emitted a bright light, accumulating the energy to release the spirit weapon's monarch skill. The two of them were already very far away from Rek, and their speed was completely suppressed by Rek. Although they kept roaring, they could only watch Rek getting closer and closer to Xiao Yan. Qin Fei and Lien Yunya, who were not far away, were blocked by the crowd. When Lien Yunhai and Qin Wei roared, they discovered that Rek was rushing towards the defenseless Xiao Yan. Immediately, their faces turned pale, and cold sweat trickled down their bodies. Xiao Yan, who was carefully experiencing the way the three of them fought just now, could not help but relax his vigilance towards the outside world. When Qin Wei let out his roar, he regained his senses. The first thing he saw when he regained his senses was Rek, who was only a few feet away from him. Lightning flashed in Rek's hand. At such a close distance, Xiao Yan could even hear the slight buzzing sound of the lightning. Wah! There was no time to think. Almost instinctively, the flames within Xiao Yan's body began to surge. 3,000 lightning monarch flames had already gathered in his palm. The Chaos Great Monarch Flames Monarch Fire skill, Fire Wheel Dao, was also instantly activated. The moment Rek's 5 claws touched Xiao Yan's clothes, Xiao Yan raised both of his hands in a lightning-like manner. At the same time, his strength suddenly soared. When his hands, which were wrapped by the 3,000 lightning monarch flames, firmly blocked Rek's palm, Xiao Yan's strength had also reached its peak. Bang! The silver lightning and the golden flame suddenly collided. In an instant, the lightning arcs flew in all directions, and red flames splashed everywhere. When Rek realized that his powerful attack was forcefully blocked by a two-path sovereign, he was immediately shocked. What surprised him even more was that the originally full lightning attribute Origin Monarch key in his hand had touched Xiaoyan's golden flame. He felt as if the violent lightning was being absorbed by him. 3,000 lightning monarch flames, it's actually so strange. No, that's not right, this kid's strength. Rek recovered from his initial shock. He was shocked once again when he felt Xiaoyan's current strength. It was actually 6 Dao Sovereign Master. Xiaoyan didn't dare to be careless in the face of his strongest opponent. Apart from the blue flame ruler that he didn't have time to take out, he had used all of his trump cards. 3,000 lightning monarch flames were gathered in his hands, blocking Rek's attack. The Chaos Great Monarch flame kept moving in the meridians of his arms, offsetting the hidden force of Rek's attack. The Chaos Great Monarch flame's Monarch Fire skill, the Wheel of Fire Dao, was also completely used. It used all of its strength to defend against Rek's attack. After all, Rek had been stuck in the peak of Monarch Spirit for a few years. Although he was puzzled by Xiaoyan's sudden increase in strength, he didn't hesitate at all. When he saw that his attack was blocked, his heart began to spin. A large number of Origin Monarch Ki surged out from his body, instantly forming visible lightning arcs on his arms. Lightning King Arm. With a low roar, the veins on Rek's arms bulged, and they emitted dazzling silver lightning arcs. After that, he threw them at Xiaoyan. Not good. When he saw that Rek didn't care about Lian Yunhai and Qin Wei's furious attack and used the high-grade Monarch spell Lightning King Arm on him, Xiaoyan immediately felt as if his entire body had been locked down by the aura of the Lightning King Arm. The aura of a peak of Monarch Spirit caused his movements to become somewhat stiff. Prestige Power Spell. Looking at the descending arms, Xiaoyan maintained his calm. The moment Rek used the Lightning King Arm, Xiaoyan's outstanding combat instinct immediately sensed the danger. Immediately, 3,000 lightning monarch flames turned into a wall of fire and stood in front of him. After that, a gust of wind blew under his feet, and the 9 revolving wind rotation was instantly unleashed. Boom! Rek's arms passed through Xiaoyan's body. The latter's body trembled and disappeared. Rek, who did not have the time to recover his strength, violently struck the ground where Xiaoyan had just stood. The ground immediately turned into rubble and dust flew into the air. Rek violently smashed Xiaoyan into a stone cave that was several feet in size. Xiaoyan, who had barely dodged Rek's attack with his 9-wind rotation, saw the stone cave on the ground. He let out a sigh of relief. Although Rek's peak of Monarch Spirit Ki suppression did not work on him, his powerful strength and the powerful power of the high-grade Monarch spell still frightened Xiaoyan. A Monarch Spirit level warrior was indeed not someone a puny sovereign like Lei Te could compare with. The short exchange with Rek had given Xiaoyan a rough understanding of the strength of a Monarch Spirit warrior. With his current strength, he could fight a Monarch Spirit warrior head-on. Even if he used all his trump cards, he could only run for his life. Of course, if he had enough time to fuse with the Buddha Fury Fire Lotus, that would be a different matter altogether. After all, the ultimate move of using the Monarch Flame was much stronger than an ordinary Monarch spell. Rek's face turned a little ashen before his attack hit its target. Behind him, the attack of Yunhai and Qin Wei was right in front of him. It was impossible for him to turn around and defend himself. Rek cursed in his heart. After that, he could only helplessly gather the Origin Monarch Ki behind his back to form a defensive barrier. Boom! Boom! Quote. The Fire Spirit Spear and the Jade Spirit Sword Spirit Weapon Monarch skill carried the force of 10,000 units and fiercely struck Rek's back. The hastily formed defense was like a piece of paper, and it was broken through in an instant. Then, under the shocked gazes of everyone present, they mercilessly struck Rek's already injured back. Puff! After receiving such a heavy blow, Rek finally spat out a mouthful of blood. After which, like a kite with a broken string, his body fell forward uncontrollably. Before Lian Yunhai and Qin Wei could exhale, they saw Rek's body tremble and regained its balance. However, this strike had also brought Rek and Xiaoyan closer to each other. Bastard! Rek roared in his heart. Due to the pain, his white beard trembled. The flames of anger in his turbid eyes became even stronger. Ever since he left the Lei clan and came to desolate border city, with his peak of Monarch Spirit strength, he had never suffered such humiliation. When he saw Xiao Yan, who was almost in front of him, Rek was burning with anger. The flames of anger had almost buried his rationality. Bastard! Go to hell! With a furious roar, Rek used his remaining strength to reveal lightning on both of his hands. The silver lightning arcs pierced into everyone's eyes and struck towards Xiaoyan's chest with a thunderous force. It's over. When Lian Yunhai and Qin Wei saw this scene, this thought instantly flashed across their minds. The two of them were too far away from each other. Even if they wanted to save Xiao Yan, it would be too late. Although this little guy's strength is outstanding, he still isn't steady enough. In the nick of time, this thought instantly flashed across Qin Wei's mind. Looking at Rek, who was right in front of him, it was obviously too late for him to attack again. His mind was racing. Xiao Yan steeled his heart. The true monarch stage soul, which had been tempered by the prestige power spell for a long time, lunged at the menacing Rek. Rek was caught off guard. He never thought that Xiao Yan, who had lost all ability to resist, would launch a soul attack. His expression froze, and his head buzzed. It was as if he had been struck by lightning. His body trembled, and his body, which was charging forward, suddenly stopped. Under everyone's astonished gazes, Xiao Yan raised his right hand high and suddenly swung it down. In the middle of the swing, a golden ruler suddenly appeared. The moment before the ruler hit Rek's body, a red flame suddenly emerged on the surface of the ruler, and then it violently slapped down in front of everyone's disbelieving eyes. Caw! The sound of bones breaking seemed to have shattered in everyone's hearts. Rek suffered such a heavy blow. Immediately, blood spurted out crazily. His body flew backwards like a cannonball, and blood kept flowing along the way. Qin Wei, who was the first to recover from the shock, suddenly shook the fire spirit spear in his hand. He used all the strength in his body to stab at Rek, who was flying towards him. In the next moment, the fire spirit spear ruthlessly pierced through Rek's chest. The spearhead, which was dyed red with blood, pierced through his chest. Rek did not even have the chance to cry out before he died. Hiss! After a long time, the sound of the surrounding people breathing could be heard. The process just now was tedious, but it happened in an instant. In everyone's eyes, Rek's hand was about to pierce through Xiaoyan's chest. Suddenly, his body stopped moving, and he was sent flying away by a strange ruler without any hesitation. The next moment, Rek was already hanging on Qin Wei's fire spirit spear. He couldn't die anymore. Xiao Yan, who had relaxed, immediately felt weak in his body. He was the only one who knew how dangerous what had happened just now was. If he had reacted a little slower at that time, he might have been the one lying on the ground now. He was able to kill Rek this time because of luck. Although his soul was only at the mid-true monarch stage, it had been tempered by the prestige power spell for a long time. As for an ordinary emperor, if it wasn't for alchemists, the first time his soul was strengthened was when he broke through to the sovereign realm from the monarch spirit. With Rek's peak of monarch spirit strength, his soul power was probably only at the early true monarch stage. This was also the reason why Xiao Yan was able to succeed. When Lian Yunhai recovered from his shock, he still found it hard to believe. When he saw Rek's corpse being thrown to the ground, his head still felt a little dizzy. After a long time, he sighed and said, "Little friend Xiao Yan, you are really not an ordinary person." The current Lian Yunhai. He had already deeply believed that this young man was a disciple of some big family who had come to Forest Domain to train. Otherwise, he would never believe that a puny sovereign master could kill a peak of monarch spirit warrior indirectly. Even he wouldn't dare to confront Rek, who was going all out. Qin Wei put away the fire spirit spear and looked at the blue flame ruler in Xiaoyan's hand. He was also shocked in his heart. If he hadn't seen wrongly just now, when it was about to hit Rek, a flame appeared on the ruler. It wasn't a virtual flame formed by Origin Monarch Key, but a real flame. This ability, in his knowledge and experience, it was as if ordinary spirit weapons didn't have this ability. Qin Fei, what kind of monstrous genius did you bring back? He didn't know whether to feel happy or helpless in his heart. Initially, he thought that this young man only had extraordinary strength. But now, it seemed like he couldn't be judged by common sense. At this moment, even Yunya and Qin Fei had run over. The scene just now had also grabbed their hearts. When they saw Xiao Yan send Lake flying, they were dumbfounded. It took them a long time to react, and they hurriedly ran over. When he saw Xiaoyan's weakness, Lien Yunhai waved his hand. Qian Lai seemed to have been injected with stimulants as he excitedly ordered the evacuation of the city guards' residence to clean up the Lei prefecture. Someone, take the storage ring from Rex's hand. I think this old man has already taken all of the Lei family's properties. After that, he will clean up the Lei family completely. It's time for Rex to pay the other 1 million Xiao Yans and 1 mid-grade monarch spell that he owes Xiao Yan. After saying that, Lien Yunhai waved his hand. The city guards had been driving the carriage a long time ago. Qin Fei helped the weakened Xiao Yan to get into the carriage. After that, under the watch of countless onlookers, the carriage sped towards the city lord's mansion. Chapter End. Chapter 73. Ruler's Skill 8 Directional Lightning Ruler Technique. City Lord's Mansion. In a luxurious guest room, sandalwood was quietly burning, and the refreshing cigarette was faintly filling the air. On the bed, Xiao Yan was gently closing his eyes, adjusting the origin monarch key in his body. His soul did not suffer much damage. On the contrary, his body had suffered a lot of soreness because he had forcefully withstood Rex's high-grade monarch spell. His meridians were also stained with some thunder attribute hidden force. Even though 3,000 lightning monarch flames had been removed, he still felt numb and powerless. Dong dong dong. A light knock on the door broke Xiaoyan's thoughts. He opened his eyes. Xiao Yan stretched his muscles and bones, got down from the bed, and opened the door to take a look. It was the smiling Yunya. Xiao Yan did not even need to look to know that the man beside her was Qin Fei. After this kid helped him into the carriage, he shamelessly called Lien Yunya to get on the carriage as well. His beautiful name was to let Lien Yunya thank him. In the end, Qin Fei chattered all the way and exaggerated some of the things he told him to Lien Yunya. Mr. Xiao Yan, have you recovered? Father asked me to invite you to the main hall to have a chat. Seeing Xiao Yan come out, Yunya gently smiled and said softly. Her beautiful smile immediately stunned a person beside her. Okay, thank you. Xiao Yan smiled and said. Also, just call me Xiao Yan. Mr. Xiao Yan, I'm really not used to this kind of address. Hearing Xiao Yan's words, even Yunya nodded her head lightly and replied with a smile. Lien Yunya led the way in front. Qin Fei walked up to Xiao Yan and looked at him with eyes full of worship. Big brother Xiao, you really hid it well. You were able to kill that old dog Rex. Even if the city lord and my dad worked together, they still wouldn't be 100% confident. Your strength. Is it because you are already a monarch spirit? Quote. Xiao Yan smiled bitterly and shook his head. How is that possible? Stop guessing. That's right. Where will we go after we teleport to the West Star City? While Qin Fei was deep in thought, Lien Yunya spoke up the year before. It's Qingshan City in Fengdu County of Wuning Prefecture. After arriving there, we will be able to arrive at Wuning City after passing through 4 cities. After passing through the teleportation point, we will arrive at the Linzhou Palace. In the center of the Linzhou Palace, the Linxing City is the transportation array that will teleport us to the Star Moon Spirit Domain. Xiao Yan nodded silently after hearing this. He firmly remembered the words spoken by the former in his heart. Unconsciously, he had some expectations in his heart, and it seemed that he was getting closer to the Yunluo Academy. At this moment, when he saw Qin Fei's flattering smile towards Yunya, Xiao Yan's heart moved. A feeling of longing that he had not felt for her for a long time surged out from his heart like a tidal wave. Shu and Kai Lin, 2 uncles. Both of you are all right. Looking at the blue sky, Xiao Yan felt a trace of melancholy in his heart for the first time. He wished that he could return to his lover's side at this moment. Sigh. He let out a long sigh, but in the end, it was still hidden deep in his heart. After a while, the 3 of them arrived at the main hall of City Lord's mansion. The layout of this place was elegant and noble, and it portrayed a kind of grand atmosphere. At this moment, Lien Yunhai and Qin Wei were sitting opposite each other in the main hall. They were discussing something in a soft voice. When they saw Xiao Yan, Lien Yunhai chuckled and stood up. Little friend Xiao Yan is truly a genius. He killed a peak of monarch spirit with the strength of a sovereign master. Such a result really makes us feel ashamed. Xiao Yan could only smile bitterly when he heard that. City Lord, please don't say that. If it wasn't for you and Regiment Commander Qin, Rex would have been seriously injured long ago. How could this kid have succeeded so easily? Haha, good. Don't be arrogant and impetuous. Your future achievements will definitely not be low. Qin Wei also stood up at this moment. He clapped his hands and laughed loudly. After that, he handed a storage ring to Xiao Yan and said, "Little friend Xiao Yan, there are 1.5 million monarch crystals in here. 1 million of them was taken out from Rex property. The other 500,000 is a token of appreciation from City Lord and I. Don't think it's too little." Xiao Yan didn't refuse when he heard this. Qin Wei knew that it was time for him to use money. If he refused again, it would seem a little hypocritical. He took the storage ring and swept it with his powerful soul force. The mountain of storage rings in the storage ring also shocked Xiao Yan. If that's the case, it would be impolite for that kid to decline the offer. After saying that, Xiao Yan flipped his hand and kept it into his storage ring. After they sat down, Lian Yunhai waved his hand, and several different scrolls appeared on the table. These 5 intermediate monarch spell scrolls belong to the Lei family. Unfortunately, Rek didn't use the Lightning King Arm monarch spell. Since Rek made a promise to one intermediate monarch skill scroll, Xiao Yan, since that scroll suits you, take it. Xiao Yan's eyes lit up. Apart from the mid-grade monarch skill 1000 illusion dragon leg, his current attack was on the monarch skill. As for the Flame Dragon Rush, it had been eliminated a long time ago. As the Flame Burning Mantra was upgraded to the low-grade Emperor realm, Xiao Yan felt that the monarch skill in his hand was getting more and more scarce. Now that he had such a good opportunity, Xiao Yan naturally wouldn't miss it. The 5 monarch skill scrolls had different shapes and sizes. It wasn't big, only the color of the scrolls was different. Xiao Yan picked up a yellow scroll and placed it between his eyebrows. He injected his soul energy into it, and soon, the information about the scrolls was transmitted into his mind. Intermediate defensive monarch spell, lightning protection net. Xiao Yan pondered for a moment, then put it down. The lightning protection net was the monarch skill that Lei Tei and Rek's grandfather and grandson both practiced. In terms of defense, it was not bad, but it seemed to be useless to him, who lacked the offensive monarch skill. Thinking of this, Xiao Yan suddenly said, "Why don't I see Lei Tei?" Lian Yunhai shook his head and said, "I didn't find anything when I was searching the Lightning Prefecture. Maybe Rek wanted to have a life-and-death battle with me and Commander Qin, so Lei Tei escaped from that secret." Passage ahead of time. Lian Yunhai said it casually, totally not putting it in his heart. It was true that Lei Tei's biggest backer had already died. With his puny strength as a sovereign, he wouldn't dare to be arrogant in Falling Rock City even if he was given 10 guts. Xiao Yan nodded and didn't say anything else. He picked up another scroll and placed it between his eyebrows, observing it once more. Intermediate movement technique, monarch skill, lightning shadow. Step. Intermediate level fist technique, monarch skill, explosive thunder fist. Intermediate level leg technique, monarch skill, 9 rolling thunder kick. After reading 3 scrolls in a row, Xiao Yan helplessly put them down. To him, the lightning shadow steps was completely unnecessary. Xiao Yan was confident. If he had mastered the 9 revolving wind steps, it would definitely be far more powerful than the lightning shadow steps. As for that leg technique, the monarch skill, it was given up by Xiao Yan because he had the 1000 illusionary dragon leg. Looking at the last black scroll, Xiao Yan was about to pick up the scroll of the explosive thunder fist. After thinking for a while, he picked it up and placed it on his forehead. He casually scanned it with his soul. In the next moment, Xiao Yan's expression froze, and then the expression on his face was quickly replaced by wild joy. Intermediate ruler technique monarch skill 8 directional thunder ruler. Suppressing the wild joy in his heart, Xiao Yan withdrew his soul energy from the scroll and played with the black scroll. This is the scroll. Ruler technique monarch skill is exactly what this kid lacks. Qin Wei nodded and said, ruler skill monarch skill is a relatively remote type of monarch skill. With Rek's ability, it's impossible for him to collect it. I think he took it when he left the Lingsing Lei clan. That's right. According to what I know, the Lei clan of Lingsing City is the #1 clan in the entire lightning perfection, and its name has spread across the entire Western Forest domain. The main reason is because there is a monarch cultivation expert residing in the Lei clan. After sorting out his thoughts, Lian Yunhai continued, this 8-directional thunder ruler. What you have in your hand is just a remnant scroll. In the Lei clan, it is said that there is an old monarch cultivation monster who specializes in ruler skills and became famous because of this. If my guess is correct, the true grade of this 8-directional thunder ruler, monarch skill, is definitely at the monarch arts level. After listening to Lien Yunhai's guess, the fire in Xiaoyan's heart became even stronger. He looked at the black scroll in his hand, and his heart was filled with excitement. Monarch arts. When he thought of this, Xiaoyan suddenly touched his storage ring without leaving a trace. It seemed like the sky spill fist given to him by Man Yun was also incomplete, and this was only one of the 4 quarters of a punch. If he gathered all of them together, not only would the power of this punch catch up to the holy arts, it would also give him the chance to break through to the heavenly sovereign. Who? Xiaoyan let out a light breath and kept the monarch skill into his storage ring. Putting aside the fact that he was still an illusory heavenly sovereign, it was because of his powerful strength that was comparable to the holy arts that Xiaoyan was truly excited about. After listening to Lien Yunhai talk about the various cities along the way, Xiaoyan finally had some idea about the following journey. He also learned some things about the latter from Lien Yunhai. Before Lien Yunhai became the Falling Rock City Lord, he was the 4th master of the Lingsing City's Lien family. He married and had children. Initially, he thought that his life would continue like this. However, for some unknown reason, Lei clan suddenly started to clean up all the big and small families in the Lingsing City, leaving only a few medium-sized families behind. Although many people were gnashing their teeth in hatred towards what the Lei clan had done. However, no one dared to take the lead. They could only allow the Lei clan to clean up the place with blood. As a small family, the Lien family was cleaned up on the same day. Lien Yunhai dragged his seriously injured body and escaped with his nearly 10-year-old daughter. However, all of his family members were lying in a pool of blood. Facing such a huge power like the Lei clan, Lien Yunhai could only swallow his anger but not dare to say anything. He brought his daughter to travel around the Western Forest domain, and then, by chance, took up a position in West Star County. Because of his outstanding abilities, he was sent to the Falling Rock City as the city lord. When he spoke of this, Lien Yunhai seemed unusually calm. There was not a single ripple in his tone. Instead, he sat at the side. Lien Yunhai might have thought of the past and was sobbing from time to time. It made Qin Fei, who was beside her, anxious. He scrambled to try and cheer her up. Ha ha, little friend Xiao, if you have enough strength one day, you must go to the Lei clan. No matter what method you use, you must get the complete 8-directional thunder ruler in your hands. That is a mighty monarch skill. After saying that, Lien Yunhai half-jokingly said. Xiaoyan didn't make a sound. He just smiled lightly, his profound gaze carried a profound meaning. The next day, Xiaoyan had already prepared everything. He couldn't wait to bid farewell to the crowd and set off. Now, he was getting more and more anxious when he wanted to see his family. He couldn't stay here any longer. Even Yunhai and the others didn't try to persuade him to stay. After sending them out of the city, Xiaoyan bid farewell to the group and headed towards West Star City. Big Miss, Big Brother Xiao's dream of 1.2 million monarch crystal has been fulfilled. You still won't agree to it. On the way back, Qin Fei looked pitifully at the white-clothed girl beside him and said. Even Yunya smiled. She wasn't a fool. She had already felt Qin Fei's feelings for her. It was just that a few days ago, she didn't know what was bothering her in the depths of her heart, and she was unwilling to accept it. Yesterday, she heard from Xiaoyan that his family was in Star Moon Spirit Domain. Now that Xiaoyan had left, even Yunya's entanglement had finally dissipated. She was also a magnanimous person. She didn't seem depressed because of this. On the contrary, she felt somewhat happy because the knot in her heart had been resolved. Hee, when Big Brother Xiaoyan achieves his dream, he will be a sovereign. When you become a sovereign master, I will fulfill your dream. After saying that, even Yunya ran forward. Qin Fei, who was behind, was stunned for a moment. Then, as if he had been injected with stimulants, he looked at the blue sky and suddenly felt that the world was so beautiful. Chapter End. Chapter 74. Emperor Flame Riot 6th Sovereign Master. The sky is wide. It had been 5 days since he left Falling Rock City. Currently, Xiaoyan was lying on top of a huge rock in the forest. He raised his head and looked up at the sky. It was as if the sky had been washed by a breeze. At the edge of forest domain, there were very few towering trees that could cover the sky. It was also because of this that the vast sky could be seen with a single glance. There was only one official road from the Falling Rock City to the West Star City. As the distance between the Falling Rock City and the West Star City grew further and further, the number of residences in the surroundings gradually decreased until the surroundings were once again surrounded by boundless forests. After walking for a few days on the official road, Xiaoyan once again jumped into the deep mountains and continued his cultivation. At this moment, the black scroll in Xiaoyan's hand was the remnant of the 8-directional thunder ruler. After resting for a while, Xiaoyan leapt up and tore open the scroll. Soul energy surged out from between his eyebrows like a tide and instantly wrapped around the scroll in his hand. After adjusting his breathing to its best, Xiaoyan finally made up his mind to cultivate the 8-directional thunder ruler. A moment later, Xiaoyan's soul energy seemed to have entered a world of lightning. Dense lightning bolts whistled down from the sky and struck the void. It was as if thunder had risen from the ground, causing the void to tremble slightly. After Xiaoyan's soul force entered the ocean, the boundless sea of lightning suddenly began to shake violently like a tsunami. In the next moment, it had already formed a huge ruler that stood proudly in the sky. The huge ruler was covered with tiny words, which were the key points of cultivating the 8-directional thunder ruler. Those who wish to learn the ruler must possess the power of lightning to pry into it. At the hilt of the huge ruler, dozens of vigorous words formed from silver thunder rumbled, causing people to look sideways. Power of lightning. Xiaoyan frowned, and then withdrew his soul force. He looked at the black scroll in front of him. Half a day later, a golden flame suddenly appeared in Xiaoyan's right hand. The flame burned and thunder rumbled. The risk of using 3,000 lightning monarch flames was also one of Xiaoyan's bets. 3,000 lightning monarch flames could be said to be the lightning within the flames. It had the properties of lightning, but Xiaoyan was not confident that it could be used to activate the 8-directional thunder ruler. Chi. The golden flame kept burning the black scroll. Soon, the scroll was burnt to ashes. Looking at the ashes in his hand, Xiaoyan's face twitched, and he almost cursed out loud. At this moment, the lightning threads that were flowing upstream of the 3,000 lightning monarch flames suddenly flashed intensely. Then, countless tiny lightning threads gathered in front of Xiaoyan. Under the latter's shocked gaze, they slowly formed a cultivation technique composed of lightning. It's good, it's good. Xiaoyan let out a long sigh. If he really got burned down, he would have nowhere to cry. Soul energy surged out once again, wrapping around the entire cultivation technique. In just a few breaths of time, the lightning characters seemed to have lost their spirituality, disappearing one after another. After memorizing the essence of the cultivation technique in his mind, Xiaoyan flipped his hand and the blue flame ruler appeared in his hand. At the same time, a flame surged out of his body. Before the flame landed on the ground, it turned into a flaming horse, the Xiaoao that had been in Xiaoyan's body for a long time. Perfect, I need to practice it. Please be on guard for me. Rubbing the Xiaoao's big head, Xiaoyan said with a smile. The current Xiaoao was already at Xiaoyan's neck. Even Xiaoyan wasn't sure how strong it was. It was at least not weaker than an ordinary monarch spirit. The Xiaoao gave Xiaoyan a resentful look. A trace of displeasure flashed across its big eyes, but it still pouted and took a few steps forward. It laid on the ground and breathed out flames in boredom. With a light smile, Xiaoyan closed his eyes. According to the description of the cultivation method, 3,000 lightning blue flame rulers suddenly appeared from the hand that held the blue flame ruler, completely wrapping around the blue flame ruler. Just as Xiaoyan was about to proceed to the next step, an unexpected change occurred. The originally calm 3,000 lightning monarch flames suddenly began to burn fiercely. The golden lightning arcs that could be seen by the naked eye flashed wildly. Before Xiaoyan could react, he felt a heart-burning pain in his body. It was as if his body was struck by lightning, and he powerlessly fell to the ground. When the Xiaoao by the side saw Xiaoyan lying unconscious on the ground, it immediately became anxious. When it saw the golden flame uncontrollably jumping on the surface of Xiaoyan's body, the Xiaoao's big eyes flashed with doubt. Woo! The unconscious Xiaoyan woke up from the burning pain. He could feel the wild violence of the 3,000 lightning monarch flames in his body. Xiao Yan was also shocked. But now, he didn't have the time to care about why the 3,000 lightning monarch flames would suddenly become violent. Xiao Yan endured the burning pain and directed the chaos great monarch flame in his body to suppress the 3,000 lightning monarch flames. The Xiao Yi's expression was solemn as it looked at the violent 3,000 lightning monarch flames. Immediately, a fiery light burst out from its body and turned into a red light barrier to defend against the latter's destruction. The Xiao Ao, who had been stunned for a moment, finally reacted. Its body turned into a ball of flame and entered Xiaoyan's body in an instant. Ah! The unprecedented pain caused Xiaoyan's eyes to turn red. The veins on his forehead bulged, and his face became ferocious. He let out a deep roar. Because he used too much force, Xiaoyan's legs started to cramp at the same time. That kind of feeling almost made him faint. In Xiaoyan's body, when the Xiao Ao entered, the Chaos Great Monarch Flame had already fought back against the 3,000 Lightning Monarch Flame. The 3,000 Lightning Monarch Flame were like a furious lion, crazily attacking everything in Xiaoyan's body. The Chaos Great Monarch Flame was like a firefighter, protecting everything that was being attacked by the 3,000 Lightning Monarch Flame. But it was obvious that the Chaos Great Monarch Flame was still too weak, it was not enough to protect him perfectly. Boom! 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 The lightning was furious. It was as if the golden lightning had pierced through the void. It continuously flowed through Xiaoyan's body, wantonly destroying everything it saw. Ow! The Xiao Ao let out a long roar. In an instant, the Chaos Great Monarch Flame began to burn fiercely. Like a flaming net, it covered the sky and covered the earth as it rushed towards the 3,000 Lightning Monarch Flames. Sizzle sizzle. The flames and the lightning collided violently. For a moment, neither side could do anything to the other. Both sides were in a deadlock, causing the destructive power of the 3,000 Lightning Monarch Flames to slow down a lot. At the same time, under the control of the Xiao Ao, the flames in Xiaoyan's body surged out crazily, repairing the damaged meridians in Xiaoyan's body. At this moment, Xiao Yan was looking at the mess inside his body, but he was also helpless. He could only pray that the Xiao Ao won. What's going on? While the pain was alleviating, Xiao Yan was thinking hard about this problem. There was no way the 3,000 Lightning Monarch Flames would explode for no reason. There were only two things that could cause it to suddenly explode. Although he was suffering from a heart-burning pain, Xiaoyan's mind was unusually clear. Firstly, he was affected by the 8-directional Thunder Ruler Monarch skill. Secondly, during the battle with Lei Te a few days ago, the 3,000 lightning wretches had absorbed the accumulating Thunder Pearl and blocked the influence of the Lightning King arm. Thinking of this, Xiaoyan's heart suddenly moved. He immediately remembered that when he was fighting late, he had used the 3,000 Lightning Monarch Flames to absorb the mottled lightning energy from the Thunder Accumulating Pearl. He felt a little strange. Just as Xiao Yan was deep in thought, a drastic change occurred in his body. The two kinds of monarch flames that were in a deadlock for a moment slowed down, and then collided with each other with an even greater power. Xiao Yan, who was caught off guard, spat out a mouthful of blood. He felt that his 5 viscera were about to shatter. The Xiao Ao that controlled the 3,000 lightning Xiao Aos had also been stimulated. In its past life, it was a top expert who looked down on all the regions. Today, it was actually troubled by a tiny monarch flame. Ow! A roar that sounded like a dragon's roar reverberated unceasingly. The flames that were formed by the Xiao Ao instantly shot out in all directions. Countless needle-thin meteors pierced through the lightning in an instant, causing the attack of the 3,000 lightning monarch flames to pause for a moment. The golden flame shrunk rapidly. Every time it trembled violently, it would release a large amount of the monarch flame's source. After being purified by the fire net, it turned into pure origin monarch ki and poured into Xiaoyan's limbs and bones. Xiao Yan, who was enduring the pain, suddenly felt a comfortable feeling coming from his body. After that, his mind became clear, and the endless pain instantly faded away like a tide. In the next moment, Xiaoyan's strength, which had not increased for a long time, began to grow rapidly along with the consumption of the golden flame. Within his body, numerous origin chains condensed out of thin air, as if they were crossing the heavens and the earth. The thick origin monarch ki on them quickly repaired Xiaoyan's body. In just a few breaths' time, Xiao Yan had broken through to the 5th sovereign master realm. What the fuck is going on? The increase in strength did not make Xiaoyan excited. He only had endless doubts. With his status as the noble of the 3,000 lightning monarch flames, how could he show mercy after absorbing some modeled lightning energy to increase his strength? At the same time as his strength increased, Xiaoyan's mind moved. Soul energy flowed out from between his brows and entered his mind. When he saw the change in the flame mantra, Xiaoyan was finally happy. The color of the flame mantra's chapter became even brighter and deeper. That kind of throbbing feeling came over. Xiaoyan sensed it slightly and found that the flame mantra had already advanced to the middle grade emperor rank. Bang! Following the last rumbling sound in his body, 6 crystal clear and translucent origin chains rumbled within Xiaoyan's body. The origin chains, which were as thick as an arm, connected with Xiaoyan's limbs and bones. The origin monarch key that filled the origin monarch key were exceptionally rich. 6 Tao Sovereign Master. The moment the 6 golden flames formed, the Xiaoyis also slowly dissipated. They turned into a small golden lightning dragon that obediently returned to the Xiaoyi's chest. The exhausted Xiaoyi touched the lightning dragon mark on its chest and laughed foolishly at Xiaoyan. The Xiaoao's figure also appeared at this moment. Its reckless attack just now had almost injured its origin. It yawned and the Xiaoao turned into a ball of fire and entered the Xiaoyi's body to recuperate. This fellow. Xiaoyan smiled helplessly. His soul withdrew from his body. He could roughly understand that when he was in the illusion realm, although the 3,000 lightning monarch flames had been devoured, there was still some excess energy that had not been completely devoured. After absorbing the energy of the thunder accumulating pearl, the modeled energy and the pure energy of the monarch flame began to interact with each other. The energy was completely ignited, and only then did it suddenly erupt. In the end, Xiaoyan was able to gain a great deal from it. Woo! Xiaoyan opened his eyes and saw a few black wolves standing in front of him. Their eyes were flashing with a dark green light, and there were traces of black flames on their black fur. Black Fire Wolf, a middle-grade spirit beast. Its strength was about that of a human 7-path sovereign master. It was very obvious that these few black fire wolves were attracted by Xiaoyan's roar just now. Xiaoyan picked up the blue flame ruler that had fallen to the side, got up, and leapt backwards. He looked at the few black fire wolves in front of him, and the corners of his mouth could not help but curl into a smile. Coincidentally, just as he was about to test the strength of the 6-path sovereign master, a test stone appeared. 1, 2, 3. There are 12 of them in total. It is almost enough. Xiaoyan smiled lightly and suddenly rushed forward. Chapter end. Chapter 75. Plan. Ka. With the sound of bones breaking, the last black fire wolf didn't even have time to scream before it was sent flying. Along the way, wolf fur flew everywhere. It only stopped when it hit an ancient tree. The wolf's body softly fell to the ground, and it didn't make any sound. Hey, 6 Tao sovereign masters are indeed much stronger than before. Carrying the blue flame ruler on his shoulder, Xiaoyan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked around at the corpses of the black fire wolves scattered all over the place. He couldn't help but sigh. After becoming a 6 Tao sovereign, the origin monarch key that filled his body seemed to be inexhaustible. During the battle, the origin monarch key kept flowing out of his body, making the whole battle as smooth as flowing water. His gaze once again swept across the corpses of the black fire wolves on the ground. Xiaoyan pondered for a moment. He quickly left the place. 12 mid-grade spirit beasts. Although it was worth a lot of money, after the fight just now. Only God knew what else would come. If a heavenly beast came, it was likely that he would be the one lying on the ground. Besides, it was said that wolves had copper heads, iron bones, and a firm waist. It was really troublesome to break the heads of 12 black fire wolves to obtain the spirit core. Xiaoyan, who was holding more than 1,000,000 monarch crystals, might as well be capricious. In West Star City, after 11 days of rushing, Leite finally arrived at the most prosperous city in West Star County. This wasn't his first time here, and he wasn't very interested in the scenery that was several times more prosperous than the Falling Rock City. He headed straight to the station of Lei Clan. Until now, he still hadn't seen Rek. Leite was also very puzzled. After thinking of many possibilities, Leite could only suppress the doubts in his heart and focus on his journey. The Lei Clan's station was located in the most prosperous section of West Star City. Although it was called a station, it was like a majestic mansion that was not inferior to the City Lord's mansion. The City Lord of West Star City didn't say a word in response to such an offense. It was obvious how influential the Lei clan was. The person in charge here was called Lei Dun. It was said that he was a deacon of the Lei clan in the Linxing city. It was said that his strength had already broken through to the monarch spirit and reached the sovereign realm. The entire station of the Lei clan. There were a total of 8 members of the Lei clan. The remaining people were the hired guest chamberlains or fighters. A small station vaguely had the strength to fight against the forces of the City Lord's mansion. You are the grandson of that old man Rek. What business do you have with coming here? Lei Dun was called out by his subordinate from the beautiful concubine he had forcefully married yesterday. He said that there was a grandson of a member of the Falling Rock City who had been expelled from his clan who had come here to seek an audience with Lord Lei Dun. He said that he had something important to tell Lord Lei Dun. After hearing the so-called big matter, Lei Dun decided to meet her. After coming to the main hall, Lei Dun sat down on the main chair and stared at Lei Te with his sharp eyes as he spoke in a deep voice. Being stared at by an emperor, Lei Te only felt his legs go soft, and cold sweat broke out on his back. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva before saying with a trembling voice, My ancestor found the whereabouts of the 3,000 lightning monarch. Flame. Hearing these words, Lei Dun didn't feel as shocked as he had imagined. Instead he smiled. Over the years, the news that the patriarch of Lei clan had offered a high reward of 3,000 lightning monarch flames was known by everyone in the nearby few prefectures. He had only been stationed at this station for 5 years. He had received 3 reports saying that he had found the whereabouts of 3,000 thunder monarch flames. In the end, every time he mobilized his army, he would be delighted for nothing. However, the Lei clan insisted on the method to inspect such reports even if they made a mistake. In the end, it was the lowest-ranked people like them who suffered. If that's the case, tell me. The characteristics of the 3,000 lightning monarch flames. Lei Dun changed his sitting position and said with a smile. Okay. Lei Te calmed his mind and said everything Rek had told him, including absorbing the energy from the lightning accumulating pearl and defending against the lightning attacks. He didn't miss a single detail. Lei Dun's smile gradually froze as Lei Te spoke. In the end, his expression became serious, and he couldn't help but feel a slight ripple in his heart. What does that young man look like? What characteristics does he have? Can you tell his habits? As soon as Lei Te finished speaking, Lei Dun impatiently asked. He is wearing black clothes. It seems to be as tall as me. After asking all these, Lei Te was clearly stunned for a moment before stammering. Seeing the anger in Lei Dun's eyes, Lei Te hurriedly said, Before my grandfather came, he told this lowly one that he would come here personally in a few days to explain things to my lord. He come personally. Lei Dun heard this and sneered. This young man in front of him looked like a talented man, but his brain didn't seem to be enough. He didn't even need to think about it properly. With the strength of a peak of monarch spirit, if he really came early, there was no need for him to wait until now. He had just heard from Lei Te that Rek and the 2 monarch spirit warriors of Falling Rock City were fighting each other. When he thought about it again, the answer was already out. He estimated that Rek's corpse was probably stinky by now. This old thing sent this stupid kid here. He really wants to ruin our clan's grand plan. Lei Dun cursed in his heart. A bright light flashed across his eyes. He was now sure of what was going on. The flame that Lei Te was talking about was most likely the flame that they had been thinking about day and night. 3,000 lightning monarch flame. Great. When your grandfather arrives, he will be able to capture that young man. At that time, the reward of the patriarch will be unimaginable. Not to mention the daughter of a puny city lord, even the daughter of the princess of West Star County will be as easy as pie for you. Lei Dun stood up with a loud laugh and walked to Lei Te's side, smiling amiably. Really? Lei Te was not only overjoyed when he heard this, but he also thought of Yunya obediently having fun under him in the future. He suddenly felt a kind of abnormal pleasure in his heart. How can it be fake? Lei Dun said with a smile. Then, he reached his left hand behind Lei Te's head and gently patted the latter. When Lei Te was lost in his thoughts, Lei Dun suddenly struck with his knife. Lei Te's smile instantly froze, and then he directly fell to the ground and fainted. Humph. Lei Dun's face had already become as gloomy as water. He turned to his subordinate and said in a cold voice, "Contact Lei Tong and ask him to bring this kid back to the Lingsing Lei clan immediately. Ask the master of the Lei clan to use the soul-searching technique to restore the young man he mentioned. After that, the master of the Lei clan will teach you how to do it." At the end of his words, Lei Dun gave a ferocious smile. Then, as if he had thought of something, he said, "Also, let those guest chamberlains carefully observe the surroundings of the teleportation point. If a slender black-clothed man goes over, don't alert the enemy. Just use the Shadow Pearl to record his appearance. He has been freeloading on the Lei family's salary for so long. It's time for them to do something." "Yes." The subordinate at the side respectfully replied and immediately left the main hall. Looking at the unconscious Lei Tei on the ground, Lei Dun did not say anything. Instead, he turned around and sat on the main chair. His cold smile was especially frightening in the silent main hall. After 2 days of camping and sleeping in the open, the field of vision in front of them, finally his eyes opened up. The forest gradually became sparse, and a large plain appeared. Looking at it from afar, a huge city that looked like an ancient ferocious beast was crawling on the ground. Its majesty couldn't help but bring a kind of shock to Xiao Yan. That must be the West Star City, right? Sure enough, it's grand and majestic, and it's countless times more majestic than the Falling Rock City. As the bustling crowd walked to the city gate, a desolate feeling that felt like a prehistoric era welcomed them. This West Star City had existed in this vast forest domain for countless years. The yellowish moss at the foot of the city wall indicated the ancient history of this city. The edges of the city wall that had been flattened by the sandstorm told them about the past of this city. West Star City. Xiao Yan raised his head and looked at the 3 large characters that were filled with a desolate feeling. He did not know what he felt in his heart. The strength of the guards had also increased greatly. After all, this was the county city of West Star County, the peak of the sovereign who was the leader of the city guards in Falling Rock City. Here, it was actually the city gate guard. The excitement of advancing to the 6th Dao sovereign had completely dissipated at this moment. Xiao Yan once again desired to become stronger. After paying the entrance fee, Xiao Yan took a deep breath and walked in without hesitation. His figure was quickly submerged in the crowd. Chapter end. Hi guys, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.